Hi, my name is Tim Cowell, and I pastor Grace Family Bible Church in Heber, City, Utah. It's a heavily Mormon place. They like to be called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's what their official title is. And so it's very different pastoring here, but we've been here for almost 8 years, and God has been very good. Our theme verse has been John 11:40, which is, "Did I not say to you that if you believe, you shall see the glory of God?" And so we've just banked on that. We've just asked God to be faithful, and He is. He has always been faithful, and He provides for us, and He keeps us going. There's all kinds of miracles that I could talk about, all kinds of wonderful stories, but I think I just want to jump to the most recent, and that is the year 2020. The year 2020 has been an amazing year for us because, of course, of the COVID pandemic. It has caused us to really think deeply about why we're here and what God has us here for. And a verse that comes to mind about the COVID pandemic is Psalm 38, verse 11, which says, "My loved ones and my friends stand aloof from my plague, and my kinsmen stand afar off." And when we see that, we realize that there's a temptation, I think, during a pandemic to run out of fear and to stay away from people because we're afraid of getting the disease. And that hasn't been our conviction. Our conviction has been to do whatever we can to make the Church of God a place where there's warmth, where people feel welcome, where people feel loved and embraced. And there's a need for that. And if we close our doors because we're afraid of getting a disease, it just feels like we're sinning against God. It feels like we're neglecting our duty, our post, if you will. God has put us here, and we're a small church, but from day one, we've felt the conviction to keep our doors open. And that is through all kinds of mandates and all kinds of rules and regulations and social distancing and mask wearing and just all kinds of obligations. We felt like, well, we'll try to do whatever we can, but one thing we cannot do is close our doors. And so several things have happened as a result of that, and I think that's really the main reason that I'm even on camera here, is to share a little bit about what God has done. And so I want to share with you two things. One is we try to send our teens at our church to summer camp every year. And sometimes we'll have a yard sale in May, and we'll raise funds for the teens. And every year we send them either to Nevada, or we send them to Wyoming, or different places to go to these summer camps because we feel that it's important. Well, this year all the summer camps closed because of COVID, and so we had nowhere to send our teens. And so I had never run a summer camp in my life, but I just felt the conviction like, well, we've got to have a summer camp for our teens. And we had this yard sale, we raised all this money, let's do it. And so we put on our own summer camp. We did it here in Utah. We went camping. We ended up having 19 teens, which is huge for our church, our little church. And so we had all these teenagers that had nowhere to go, and they ended up coming. It was a fabulous summer camp. It was a very enriching time for everyone. Unforgettable. So God blessed in that way. And then the other thing that we did is we just made a commitment. We will never shut our doors. And so there's been times where we've only had 6 or 7 people show up for church. But we just felt like it was important, just in case somebody was searching, somebody was in need of spiritual encouragement, to not come and then find the church doors locked. To us, that would have been maybe the worst thing that could happen. So So we've kept our church doors open. Two things happened as a result of that. One was we had a visitor. Her name was Monica. She had been raised in the Mormon church. She had come out of Mormonism. Her whole family, entire family, is Mormon. And so she came one Sunday, and we heard her story. This was in May, so this was right after all the lockdowns and shutdowns. And she came and she told us that she had been searching for God. And she tried the occult. She went on the dark web and saw horrible things on the dark web. She ended up trying many different avenues. But one day she turned on a YouTube church service, and somebody was preaching, and she heard the gospel for the first time. And she got saved. I believe she got saved. And so she came to our church the next Sunday, and she was here, and I gave her some counsel, and she didn't like the counsel, and so she didn't come back. And I thought, well, I'll never see her again. And 2 Sundays later, she came back and she said, I thought about what you said, and I know it was true, and I know it was right, and I just didn't want to hear it. But this is my church. And so she's been at our church ever since. She's been faithful. Back in August, she was baptized at the Deer Creek Reservoir here in town, and we had a public ceremony there, and it was just a beautiful time. The whole church was there, and it was great. And she's been faithful and committed ever since. The other thing that I thought of too that happened as a result of this is we had an earthquake. I don't know if you knew about that, but we had an earthquake. Now Utah doesn't have earthquakes. So this earthquake happened in I think it was March. And it was such a bad earthquake that it knocked the trumpet off the angel Moroni on the Salt Lake City temple. And a lot of people thought, well, is this a sign from God? What is this happening here? And it rattled a lot of people. But we got a contact at the church. They said, we've been looking for a church that's open, that's physically open, and we can't find any in our town. And we've had to go on the internet and look for churches that are open. And we feel that the earthquake, this is what they told me, we feel that the earthquake was in direct response to all the churches closing their doors, because the earthquake happened the very next day. So we really feel it. So I got this contact from these people that were out in Sandy. It's about an hour's drive from here. I said, yeah, we still have our church doors open. So they came. They participated in our communion service. It was I believe it was a Good Friday service. It was their first time here visiting our church. And we had a very small number of people that Good Friday. But they ended up moving here. They bought a home. Actually, they bought 2 homes here, and they ended up moving here. And they have been super faithful to our church. What a blessing to our church. We have a Bible study at their home now. We have one of their Mormon neighbors comes to the Bible study every week, asks tons of questions. We've been really engaging in some really good discussions with her. But it's just neat to watch how God has blessed our decision to keep our doors open, regardless of the pandemic, regardless of the mandates, regardless of all the health orders. We just, we consider it like the Bible says in Acts chapter 4. It talks about, decisions you have to make sometimes. When Peter and John answered and said, whether it is right in the sight of God to give heed to you rather than to God, you be the judge, for we cannot stop speaking about what we have seen and heard. And we just can't do that. We can't stop speaking about what God has done, and we also cannot close the doors. So